This is absolutely wild and way worse than Suns fans thought, as the Suns started off the season fantastic 8-1, but then got hit with the injury bug as Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal are dealing with some calf injuries, and players like Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn, Royce O'Neal have had to step up and take up for the plate for this Suns team, and unfortunately they have yet been able to hold over as the Suns have gone on a little bit of a skid, going 1-5 in their last 6 games. So we're going to be diving in and looking at this Suns team overall as a whole, looking at some changes that could be possibly made, or kind of going over, is this just an injury issue? We'll be diving into all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and like CJ and I have been saying, you guys have been absolutely fantastic and showing your love and support for the channel. We're really, really appreciative. So keep hitting that like button, keep hitting that subscribe button to stay in the Suns algorithm and help us get to 2,000 subscribers. But without further ado, let's dive into the video at hand and make sure to grab a snack. And like I said in the introduction, we're going to be going over this Suns skid and kind of going over, is this bad or is it just injuries? Because like I mentioned, this Suns team came off to a hot start to start off the season, going 8-1 in their first 9 games, and their only loss being against the Los Angeles Lakers, in which they had a 20-point lead in. So Suns fans were very confident with this team. Kevin Durant was playing like an MVP type like player. Bradley Beal had really found himself as this third scorer, and even though Booker had been struggling a little bit, he was still finding his ways to be effective for this Suns team. And guys like Ryan Dunn and Royce O'Neal were really popping out as their roles were a little bit less required, as they were, some helping options. But now with Durant being injured, with Beal being injured, with some other injuries happening to some other players like Grayson Allen and Yusuf Nurkic and hindering them out for games at a time, the Suns have gone on a little bit of a skid here, and it's been very, very concerning for Suns fans, including myself, because just a couple weeks ago the Suns were at top of the Western Conference, and now it's getting a little bit scary and a little bit shaky. But we're going to be looking at, is this just an injury issue, or is the Suns have an issue at hand? So let's dive in and let's look at this. Like I said, a little bit of a new setup here today, guys, so sorry if I am turning over, but I hope you guys do like it. But if we want to look at this tweet here from Dwayne Rankin, we're going to be looking at his articles. He does a fantastic job covering the Suns for this Arizona Central, but he has a snippet here from Mike Budenholzer, which says, losing is hard. The league is hard, and we've got to fight through it. We've got to compete our way through it, said Mike Budenholzer, as the Suns are 1-6 in their last 7 after losing their last 5. Their new coach says this group is good. So after, like I mentioned, the Suns started off the season 8-1. The Suns hope to have Durant and Beal back during this 5-day break that they do have coming up in their next games, as Tuesday they gear up to take on the Lakers in NBA Cup play. Phoenix is 1-1 in the group. But if we want to look at what Budenholzer said, he said that this group is good. This team is good. He's in his first season coaching the Suns. And he said overall, the competitive spirit, the things they've leaned on, things they can always get better on as a group is competitive. And we've got a group that will stay together, and that's the things they talk about. The Suns surrendered a season high points in Wednesday's night 138-122 loss to the Knicks, who were winners of their last 4 games at the Footprint Center. But if we want to keep in and diving in, Budenholzer obviously says losing is hard, where this league is hard, and we've got to fight through it. We've got to compete our way through it. While there are things we need to work on and improve on, the competitiveness of our group has been in good place when we were winning, and I would say the same thing right about now while we're struggling. The guys know how important competing is. So players like Beal, players like Dunn, players like Royce O'Neal are really bringing out that competitive spirit to really unlock some of these other players, and even players like Devin Booker are really unleashing it. Even with having guys like Beal and Durant out, these other guys are really wanting to step up and deliver. We've seen that with this Suns team. Looking at that Kings game a couple games back, we saw players like Ty Washington and Jalen Bridges really stepped up when their number was called, and that's something nice to see going all the way down to the bottom of the roster. Some of these guys are stepping up and coming to play for this Suns team when needed. It's just unfortunate that this team isn't just a core shell of what they can be, or else they'd be a top tier team. But let's keep diving in and let's keep looking at this. Like we mentioned, the Suns yielded 60 points in the paint and 28 transition points, and allowed the Knicks to shoot 58% from the field, an overall 49% from 3. And that was Phoenix's 7th game in 11 days. So Phoenix obviously playing on not a lot of rest, not having a lot of guys ready to go. That is definitely an issue, but there are some other issues as well with this team. Now, obviously, Suns big Yusuf Nurkic thinks that this is great for the team to see what they're down for. And I kind of agree with Nurkic on this one, as he says how we answer and challenge ourselves is always fun. And when we're winning, having nice days, but in the NBA season, you're going to have ups and downs. And I agree with Nurkic on this take here. I think it's nice that the Suns are having these struggles right now through the beginning of this kind of season, kind of figuring out all these injury issues now, because if it was happening after the trade deadline or, getting closer to the playoffs, that would be some significant issues for this Suns team, possibly even making the playoffs, fighting for a play-in spot, dealing with all of that. If we get all of these kinks, we get all of these issues out at the beginning of the season, all the injuries out now, that could be key in finding out who could step up and who could find impactful roles for this Suns team. And that's what we've kind of seen with this Suns squad in general. Players like Josh Okogie, players like Damian Lee, players, Bull hasn't really been given that much run, but those two players have been given an expanded role due to the fact that some of these guys have been out. And Josh Okogie has found himself an impactful role with this Suns team with no Durant and no Beal, and when they were playing, he was a third string defensive player who had the worst plus minus on this Suns team. So with some injuries, there are some silver linings with looking at these rookies really expanding their game and looking a little bit better, and also finding a diamond in the rough in Josh Okogie, who has had a pretty solid season for the Suns this year. But like Nurkic is saying, and like this up, the Suns are 1-6 in their last 7 games without injured Kevin Durant, who was out due to a 2-week reevaluation on his left calf strain. He obviously was averaging 27.6 points, and Durant suffered this injury on November 8th in Dallas. But Budenholzer said he's experienced with the calf and throughout his career has been able to take care of his body. We're going to be careful, and he's going to be careful. I think he's very aware. His communication is good, and I think careful is an appropriate word. He wants to play. We want him to play. When it's time, he will be back. And like we said and kind of mentioned earlier, if I can find it right here, where is it? Here it is. The Suns are obviously on a little bit of a break here with Durant and Beal, so this will be able for them to gear up, get ready to go, kind of get more comfortable for this Suns team as they wait on Tuesday to take on the Lakers in NBA Cup play, which will be the third time the Suns have experienced against the Lakers in Cup play. But hopefully Durant will be back for that, and Bradley Beal also has been dealing with some calf issues as well, a left calf strain, as hasn't played in Phoenix Suns win versus Utah on November 12th, where he played very solid in that game. Obviously, Beal checked out in that game and never returned, putting up 24 points in 25 minutes, where he's been the third team's leading scorer at 17.8 per game, where he's been very effective this season, not only the offensive side, but the defensive side as well for the Suns, really fitting into this Mike Budenholzer team. And obviously, Budenholzer had some comments as well on Beal's injury, saying maybe not as much experience with the same injury as compared to Durant. Maybe happened a little bit later or more recently, but the mindset is the same. We've got to push these guys to be ready to play when they're ready to play, but not do anything that puts them in harm's way or creates something that is chronic, that's reoccurring. So the Suns are being cautious. They do not want to push these guys out there and rather take these losses and rather rack up this losing record in the beginning of the season than risk the potential injury of putting Kevin Durant, putting a player like Bradley Beal out there and having them further injure their injury, which I do like because we've seen some teams around the league, the 76ers, do this in the past and in this season, and it's definitely screwed them up with how their star players can react, play with each other, kind of fit in, and ultimately screws up the timetable. So for Suns fans, I think this is the best case scenario, is kind of keeping players like Durant, keeping players like Bradley Beal, waiting on that injury report, ready for them to come back. And once they are ready to come back from these calf injuries, I think they'll be ready to go. And hopefully they'll both be ready to go, getting a little bit of rest, getting ready, gearing up for this NBA Cup game versus the Lakers. It's going to be an impactful one. Like I said, the Suns and the Lakers have already matched up twice this season. The Suns losing one of those games, obviously that 8-1, that one stinger right there was to the Lakers, but they did get revenge in their second matchup, beating the Los Angeles Lakers. So we'll have to wait and see how they'll be able to combat this Lakers team once again. But if they are able to beat them in Cup play, that would be very solid. Having Durant back as well, going up against LeBron James, would be an epic spectacular, and I know Suns fans would love to see it. But as we go into this, as we break this down, kind of going into all of this, who needs to step up for this Suns team with these injuries out? Like I mentioned, players like Okogie, players like Grayson Allen, players like Royce O'Neal, players like Devin Booker really need to take that lead. And we've seen Devin Booker get lots of criticism throughout this entire season with this Suns team, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous for the criticism that he's been given after last game that he just played. He put up a fantastic performance for the Suns, taking that load on his back and really showcasing to Suns fans what he can truly do as that superstar. And I think with Durant, with Beal back with this team, we are going to see this team 6th seed. And like I mentioned, I think it is an injury problem. I don't think there's anything to worry about. There are some holes within this Suns roster at that center position, in my opinion, but that's something to dive in and talk about in another video. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section on this Suns skid. What do you guys think is the main problem? Do you guys think it's the injuries? Do you think the Suns have a roster construction issue? Do you think it is the coaching? Do you think it is the front office? Drop down your thoughts, drop down your comments. Like I said, I personally think it is an injury issue. I do think that the Suns, with Durant, with Beal, with Booker, with this squad around them, could be a top-tier contender in the West, and we did see that in those first 10 games. So I am sure that if they get this roster back together, we'll see them fully compete. And then once we get 10 more games of that fully healthy, then we can really figure out who fits in with this roster, who does not fit in, and what kind of moves the Suns need to make them that top-tier contender in the West for the championship. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Like I said, you guys have been fantastic. You keep the engine on this channel running. So if you're still at this point in the video, you have not hit that like button, you have not hit that subscribe button, what are you doing? Make sure to tap those down below to help CJ and I get to our 2,000 subscriber goal by the end of this year for this Suns Digest channel. We're on that crave. We're on that wave. We're going to be having content coming out for you non-stop. We're going to get the live streams going back as well. So wanted to keep you updated on that. Like I said, you guys have been absolutely fantastic at showing your love, support, and all of that jazz over here on Suns Digest. So thank you guys so much. Once again, I'm Bruce Veliz. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, y'all.